Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Constructive Criticism. I am your host, Spencer, and I am joined by my co-host, a man who is a part of the most unlucky fan base in football history, Michael Hinderrocker.
I don't know. Like, is that a thing?
I feel like you have really bad luck with kickers, but that's not even an excuse this week, so...
No, I mean, I felt like we mostly had bad luck with, having Case Keenum as a quarterback, which, is sort of like to be expected.
Ooh.
Is it really bad luck? Is it really bad luck when it's just, you've known what it is for 15 weeks?
So what do you think is going to happen? Do you sign any of these three quarterbacks?
I have no idea. I'm glad I'm not the general manager. It seems
like an impossible decision.
Because I think you let Case go. You probably try to sign Bridgewater to a backup deal.
Yeah.
You probably sign Sam if he'll take less money.
Sam's the best of them all, but he always gets injured.
So tag Sam, sign Teddy to a backup deal, let Case walk.
That's probably what I would do as well.
It seemed like Case was probably going to go where Shermer goes, so New York.
Yeah.
So Giants fans, you have something to look forward to.
When Eli retires in 2 years.
A quarterback with as good an arm as I have.
Oh, he holds every record in the NCAA.
Yeah, but if you look at, I just mean velocity. Just velocity.
That dude can sling it. Let's talk about our sponsors who can also sling it, and they'll sling your cards. You can check them out at mtgoasis.com. You can get 15% off of your first order by using the code CCMTG at checkout. That's CCMTG. I'm always told I say that too fast. It's constructive criticism MTG.
Right.
Just
so
letters.
Yeah. If you can't figure it out, just contemplate the things it could stand for.
Yep. But I do say it too fast, and I apologize. If you use the code Would That Be Good, no spaces, you get 4% off of every order. And yeah, we love Oasis. We love everything that they stand for. They're always trying to better themselves to improve the Magic community here in Utah, and they have great prices and have everything you're going to need online. The number of people that have but messaged me in the last couple of weeks since I've been sick. People have been buying decks from them, telling me that they've been using the code. Somebody bought some cards from them on Monday of a week and got them before F&M, and they were like in shock. They're like, "How did I get these cards already?" And I think that Oasis just does a really good job, and I highly recommend checking them out. You can also check out our other sponsor at the Mana Base, and their sponsor at Fusion Gaming. If you're looking for some sealed product, go to Fusion Gaming. Let them know that Constructive Criticism sent you. Fusion Gaming is trying to promote up-and-coming content creators, and we really appreciate their sponsorship. And it means the world to us that we can be a part of that. So you can support this podcast directly by going to patreon.com/CCMTG. We want to give a shout out to our two newest patrons, Robbie W. and Richard M. Richard has been listening to this podcast for a really, really long time. I can't remember a time where I didn't see him somewhere in the podcast listeners. So shout out to him for supporting us this way. I know that you've been listening for a long time, Richard. I know that Richard tells me that he doesn't play much Magic anymore, but this podcast has helped him in other games. We have another patron who told us that too, that they don't play Magic, but the concepts that we talk about and the mindset that we preach of #always-improving really does help them. So thank you so much to Richard. Robbie W. is one of our patrons of $25 or more per month. That means Robbie actually gets a playtesting session once a month with myself or Michael. Really, really appreciated. Robbie's added me on Facebook, which is typically what I ask our $25 or more per month patrons to do, and we'll set up some testing time to get with Robbie and see what his goals are in Magic and try and help him improve. So thank you so much to Robbie. Thank you so much to Richard, and thank you to all of our patrons. Speaking of which, I'm back, everybody. I've been sick for what feels like a month.
You don't sound like you're dying. It's good.
It was so funny because was it last week that I came into the store?
Yeah. You were like,
and I'm like, I'm
good
today, and you were like, no, you're not. Like,
I think I said, "Are you sure?" And then I think Deb was like, "I think Michael's right." And then you could yeah, probably just like not the best idea.
I wanted to so bad, but I'm finally back. So we got our tokens in. Every single person basically has messaged me asking if Michael and I will sign the tokens. So here's the thing: if you have been a patron ever, of $3 or more per month, message me. I'd love to send you some tokens. Still, I want to make sure that everybody gets them who's earned them. I will go into Oasis one day and have me and Michael sign enough for all of the patrons up to now. But like, I'm not gonna make Michael sign 5,000 tokens. Like, that's not.
Man, when we have 5,000 patrons, let me know. I mean, I'll sign whatever stack is there for the amusement of it. It's okay.
Exactly. I'm like, we'll sign like 100. We don't even have that many patrons, so we can definitely do it. We have a lot of special requests. Like Mason wants them to say something. Andrew wants them to say something. If you have a special request, like, you have to message me again because I probably already forgot it. But yeah, the tokens are here. People are really excited about them. I've already noticed. And we're excited about them too. So also, I did buy custom sleeves to test out, and they are easily the worst sleeves I've ever bought. So we will not be ordering sleeves from this company. They're horrible. So we'll keep looking for options.
It doesn't really surprise me. Like,
they're so bad. I wish that I could show our audio list. It's like they look like they were like they printed a piece of paper, and then they laminated that picture, and then they did a backside lamination that you could fit your card into. Like, that's literally what it looks like. They're the worst sleeves I've ever seen.
That's
so we won't be using them in the future.
I mean, but you gotta love it on some level, right? It's funny. Sometimes it's funny to see just how bad something you order on the internet.
It was funny. I opened them and I was like, "Wait, are these the sleeves?"
I don't know what else it could be, but yeah. But you see, you're just like, this seems bad.
Yeah. So, anyway, one of the benefits of being a patron, other than those tokens, other than Card of the Week, is getting to ask a question for the Patreon question. And this week we have a question that says, with the new summon coming out, how do you brew? Do you work on existing archetypes and try to improve with new cards, find new archetypes? How do you go about that? Also, what is the point in finding something new at what point is finding something new not time effective, i.e. working on a new deck / archetype and not just tuning the deck? Thank you so much. So I just did a video this week on how I approach building decks, for the most part. And I'll go first on this one, Michael. So the first thing that I always do is, like, if there's a card that I'm excited about, I'm going to try and build around that card. I don't care if it's a whole new archetype. I don't care if I think that it fits really well into a specific archetype that already exists. But that's the first thing that I go for. The second thing that I look at is, does the cards in the set change some of the decks that maybe I'm not very interested in playing enough that I can maybe attack them with things that before didn't have a huge part of the percentage of the metagame. A good example of this is when it was just Bant Company and White Red Humans were the only two decks. I was really high on Green Red Ramp, even though Green Red Ramp had been a deck last season and nobody was talking about it. I was really high on it. So it kind of just depends on like what I expect the format to look like, or even after a week one like this one, what does the format look like? Is there a specific archetype that's doing really well, or a strategy that's doing really well, and kind of attacking it from there?
I think that's a good answer. I mean, ultimately, I think you have to think about why you're interested in brewing. I think brewing is really fun, and it's fun to just kind of mess around with new cards and stuff like that. But ultimately, if we don't have like a Pro Tour or a really big money week one event to attend, I think generally, like, there's not a whole lot of reason to throw yourself super deep into like brewing decks unless you just enjoy it. But I think from like a return on investment kind of standpoint, you're very unlikely to really feel like you get a whole lot out of that.
I mean, the number of Noose Constrictor decks that I played because of Michael Hinderocker is all of the Noose Constrictor decks that I played.
Right. So I mean, you can like it. It's sometimes it's interesting to try things. Like we tried some really weird things, and sometimes you find out that you like a certain card or there's some kind of usefulness. But like outside of trying to play a Pro Tour, 2 weeks after a set release, I don't think there's that much value in just
I think that a good example of this is kind of your excitement. I feel like it was you. You're the one that was really excited about Glint Sleeve Siphoner, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, card's great.
And we really quickly found out that card was actually just great.
Yeah, I mean that ended up being unplayable because everyone was playing Walking Ballista, which was probably better than we thought it was.
Sure.
So it ended up, even though I think we pretty quickly identified Glint Sleeve Siphoner as being fantastic, and you see it today, as there are less Walking Ballistas, Glint Sleeve Siphoner has seen a ton of play. But you look at these things and even if you identify a good card or an archetype that card works well in, it doesn't necessarily actually translate very well to getting a lot back out of it. So I think if you're looking for the enjoyment of brewing, it's definitely a good time. But if you're looking really for higher return on investment, I think tuning a known archetype is just way less of a time investment, and you're way more likely to get something out of it. I think just being good at playing archetypes that exist is really valuable. Right? I mean, that's mostly how you actually win games of Magic, is just being better than your opponent when you have basically the same cards.
Let's move on to our next segment, which is #AlwaysImproving. First of all, thank you so much for that Patreon question. If you become a patron of any amount, you can join our Patreon participation segment. Michael, #AlwaysImproving is the point of this podcast. We believe if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And we want to be doing what we can all the time to be improving ourselves. So what was your #AlwaysImproving moment this week?
Just been trying to prepare for the Pro Tour, basically, and I drafted a lot this week. I really drafted a ton of times. I played a little Modern, but am pretty locked in on what I'm playing. Just trying to draft, really, and figure out what makes sense in this format compared to the previous format, and just getting comfortable.
Yeah. So I've done a few drafts and done some sealed. What is your opinion of this format compared to the previous one?
I think the removal is better. It's still pretty fast, but you die a lot less to just One with the Wind or River Herald's Boon or Mark of the Vampire. I mean, partly because there are less of those auras, but there are some kind of cheesy auras like that in this set too, and I found them to be substantially worse than they were before. I just think the bounce and removal effects are a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So I still have mostly leaned towards lower curve decks, but I also think that the rares are a little bit more important in this set, and that you'll often open rares that even without being mega bombs, they improve your deck a lot. Whereas in the last format, basically there was very, very few rares I would take over One with the Wind.
What are you thinking about as far as Modern? This week is standard week on the podcast, so we won't be able to get into Modern. The Pro Tour is in 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's not this weekend, it's next weekend. I'm almost certainly going to play Hay Bears. I played the Modern Challenge with it and went 7-0 in Swiss. I have a couple of little things I might change, but pretty much locked in.
So what is it about Hay Bears that you're enjoying so much right now?
Primarily the 85% win percentage.
Yeah, I mean, you seem to be doing really well with the deck. I know that Matt was super high on the deck a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so between Matt and I over the last 3 weeks, we're just under 85, I think, which is really high.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you. I mean, I want nothing more for you to X5 the Pro Tour, except that if you don't, that means we can play in the RPG together. So.
That is true. I hadn't thought of it that way. But,
yeah. So if you X5, awesome. I'm super happy for you. If you don't, it means we can play in the RPG together.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
I think I'd rather you X5 though.
Yeah, I mean,
that puts you closer to gold, so I think that's more important.
Yeah, I mean, X5 would be good.
Yeah,
X5 obviously. In a shocking turn of events.
Hashtag would be good.
40. Yeah.
So for me, for Always Improving, I did some sealed with Adrian Carr, one of our patrons of $25 or more per month. Really enjoyed that time with him this month. We got to build our pools. I built my pool. He built his pool. We talked about our pools together. Kind of went over things. So I played some sealed as so first of all, because sealed is my favorite format, but I had planned on going to the PPTQ this Saturday, and ended up not going because I slept in and because Matt wanted to go to the PPTQ on Sunday. But I got a lot out of that, and then I ended up going to a Pauper event, and I played Affinity for the first time in Pauper at this event. It was paper Pauper using the MTGO ban list. And Michael, I don't know if you know this, but the artifact lands are broken.
Yeah, having played in Standard the first time, those lands are really stupid.
They're super unfair.
Yeah, they're just like painless Ancient Tombs.
It's sometimes
Except
better, sometimes better than that. Yeah,
But-
I agree. It's super weird. So that deck seemed really good. I went undefeated, beating Manny in the finals of that event. Played some Moto with Is It Blitz, and I'm kind of switching my time between Moto and Arena right now, because I'd like to build up my collection in beta for when Standard hits MTG Arena. But I've honestly just been trying to play a lot of Magic. And the main reason for that is because I spent way too much time playing Hearthstone in the last month. You don't play any other games, right, Michael?
Not really.
So sometimes I'll be in a Magic event and I'll like think of a line. Like I remember when I really like tried to do well in Hearthstone. I think it's the only month I think I got to like rank 8 or something. It was like the only. I'm on a free to play account, so like I don't have many cards, but it was like the only month I really tried. And I was at a PPTQ at Oasis, and I was like thinking about my line, and I like wanted to attack his creature with my creature so that I could get an extra damage. And I was like, I'm playing way too much Hearthstone.
Just trying to like change the rules.
But I did play a ton of Magic. Also, I'm so sorry that this is going long. Like I haven't been on a podcast in a month, so.
No worries.
But yeah, I learned a lot about Pauper. I learned a lot about Sealed. I've been kind of trying to watch Magic a lot while I was sick. So like I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and things like that. And honestly, like this last year of my life, so I guess this is really important to this. So hashtag always improving came from the motto from my job at Thumbtack, which was always be improving. It was the thing that everybody said at that job, and I just adopted it and put it into the podcast. I was like, this fits what we're trying to teach so well. We're going to change it a little bit, put it into the show. And a year ago, last Friday, was my last day at Thumbtack. And I've been at OC Tanner working for Tanner Labs in software product management for a year now. And I was thinking back on my year in Magic and my year in life and my year in podcasting. And it was the fastest year of my life, like by a significant margin. I think having a 1-year-old did a lot of that. Like, you know, having an infant made the year go by faster. But, you know, when I set my goals for 2018, I didn't know what having a kid was going to be like. And, you know, in this year, I don't want to say I didn't achieve anything, but like, I just didn't try to achieve anything.
I kind of understand, like, it's hard not to just get caught up in trying to, like...
I, like, did well at GP Denver, which is one of 3 GPs that I played in, or 4 if you count the Vegas... 5 if you count the Vegas GPs, which I don't, because I'm, like, literally conceding to people so I can go gamble. But, yeah, it was an interesting year for Magic. You know, I won all the PPTQs for every season I tried to qualify and things like that. But, you know, when I'm looking forward to this year and my goals and things like that, what I'm really looking at is like, what can I do to not necessarily qualify for a Pro Tour, but put myself in a good situation to do so. You know, early on when the podcast was me, Michael, Casey, and Mammy, we talked about how it's not necessarily about like what you do at the end. It's about the positions you put yourself in. because if you put yourself in the right position enough times, like it'll translate. And I did a really good job this last year of putting myself in the right position lots of times, right? Like I was very prepared for all the GPs that I played in, doing well enough to get, have one of my better finishes in GPs, qualified for all the RPTQs. I had a good year, but this year I kind of want to focus on like translating that into more tangible things, but I don't know what's possible, right? Like I don't know what having a 2-year-old is going to be like or having a 1-year-old is going to be like, right? Like, I've never been in this situation before, but I hope that as I look at always improving this year and I look at my goals that I can try and what's the word? I don't even know that there's a word for this. I just want to always be putting myself in the best position, right? When you look at some of like when you look at, I know that people hate when I use sports references, but like if you look at like LeBron James and Tom Brady, right? Like they're always putting themselves in a position to win a championship, right? Like LeBron has gone to the most finals. Tom Brady's gone to the most Super Bowls, and it's not because like it's not because, first of all, it is because they're the best, but it's also because like they know that the important thing happens in the preparation and the day-to-day more so than just being the best, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think too, sort of my biggest thing relating to this is kind of you can't win a championship if you don't make the playoffs, and
Right.
You can't win events if you don't top 8, and
No, it's so
you
true.
can't top 8 if you don't qualify to play in them in the first place, right?
And this is a thing that I've suffered with a lot, and I think that most players that get to my level and then even up to your level, Michael, have this problem where like you start taking GP day 2s for granted. You start taking PPTQ top 8s or RPTQ top 8s or whatever it is you're doing for granted, and you're like, I'm just good enough to do this. I should always do it. But like when you listen to some of the greats, like PV, for example, will always tell you that winning a match of Magic is hard, and I sometimes I feel like I lose sight of that.
So, I think like that's kind of an interesting dichotomy, because I think you start getting into like expectations for yourself versus why this expectation exists for you, right? And it's like,
right. So like, but can we separate the types of events we're talking about, right?
Sure, but I guess what I would say is like, I expect to make day 2 of every Grand Prix I play in, and I mostly take that for granted. But why? Like, if you, I expect that because of how prepared I generally am. Right. Like,
but that's what I'm saying, right? Is like, so this is the Tom Brady's like the perfect example of this, right? Like the dude literally goes to the Super Bowl 50% of the time. Like 50% of the seasons he's played, he's gone to the Super Bowl.
Right.
But like, if you asked him why that's true, he's not going to say, because I'm effing Tom Brady. He's going to be like, because when my center hands me the ball, I expect a perfect handoff every single time. I don't care if we're in practice. I don't care where we are. And that's the same thing that's true about what Michael's saying here. My voice is changing on this podcast. This is like, you can hear the fact that I'm still a little sick, but like the thing that Michael's saying here is like, I do expect this because Michael expects greatness from himself.
Right. So, I mean, so part of it is like, what you're capable of, and why you're capable of what you're capable of when it comes to something like Magic, right? Like, you very rarely are going to like not prepare for an event and then just win it, right? That isn't really how it works. This
is something that Devonair and I talked about as far as like Vegas Grand Prix go, because she was talking to me about it. She's like, "How come you do well at a lot of Grand Prix, but every time we go to Vegas for a Grand Prix, you don't day 2?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is like a real problem that I have." And I think that the truth is that, like Michael, I do expect a day 2 Grand Prix. Like when I had those 2 Grand Prix, the sealed one and the standard one, that I didn't make day 2, I was really upset with myself. I was like, I can play better, I can do better, I can prepare better. I know that I'm better. And I think that when I'm approaching this #always improving segment this year, I want to remember that. Like, I'm obviously not going to have, the same 20 to 40 hours that I put into Magic when I was a bachelor every week, but I still hold myself to a high standard, and I hope that I can achieve that this year for the listeners. So that was a long hashtag was improving segment.
Yeah, but I think that's a good goal, and like, it's good to think about why you set the goals you set, and like,
right,
what you actually have control over that you can achieve.
Right. So when they announced bronze, I was like, I'm gonna get bronze without even thinking about like monetary plus my new job, like plus getting I knew I was going to get promoted this year, right? Like that was a thing I knew was going to happen if I did my job. And I didn't even consider that when I was like setting my goals for the year. And I think that sometimes when we look at like goals, and not even just goals, but like our mindset when it comes to things that we're doing, I feel like we don't take a holistic approach to life on every one of those types of decisions. And I think I should be better at that. So let's move on to card of the week. So no deck doctor this week. This is my fault. I don't think that I posted a deck doctor thread since the bannings. So I'll get on that so that we can get back to that. If you're a patron of $5 or more per month, you get access to the Deck Doctor, where we talk about what we love about your deck, what we would change, and where we think your deck stands today. And just completely my bad. I've just been sick. I just didn't post anything. That's my bad.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like it's hard to. Sometimes when you're sick, really it's about all you can do to.
The real thing that happened, I recorded 2 videos while I was sick. There was so much coughing in the videos, I could not edit them. They're just gone forever.
It was just going to look like a random YouTube video where you're like cutting together all your sentences.
Yeah.
No pauses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Card of the week this week is Unlicensed Disintegration. So every week on the show, we want to give back to the listeners. This is technically our next Patreon goal, but we're like super, super close to it. We set a goal to bring back Card of the Week and kind of change the way that we were doing it at I think it was at $400 per month. We're at $372, but we had like the most declined pledges in the last 2 months that we've ever had, and that's just because of the holidays. Like we kind of expect to get those declined pledges. We're way over $400 a month for this, so I know that it'll come back on us. So we're just gonna keep doing it. But basically, we're bringing back Card of the Week every month. Instead of giving like one card to one person per week, we're gonna give all of the cards through the month to one patron of $3 or more per month. So this week it's Unlicensed Disintegration. This has been the card of the week before, Michael, but we haven't seen this card in quite a while. The last time I saw this card was the sealed GP, and was it Phoenix?
Yeah, there was sealed in.
Yeah, so I played the PTQ at that GP, and I lost to black-red artifact aggro. That was the last time I saw this card, but I don't know that I've even played against it on Moto in who knows how long.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, but with less bristling hydras, when this card actually kills everything instead of everything except the creature that's killing you, it's a lot better. Bristling
Hydra really brought a damper onto Unlicensed Disintegration. So I think that the first thing we talked about every week on Card of the Week is what makes this the Card of the Week, and I think that the decline of Bristling Hydra is it.
Yeah, that's like a pretty big detriment to this card, and not having to play against it is obviously great. Like this card is really, really powerful. If you end up in like racing situations and you actually get to Unlicensed Disintegration someone, the tempo swing is so big.
I would say that Unlicensed Disintegration is like better than Blightning, which is.
But it feels like that, right? Like your opponent casts.
It does.
I don't think I can win this game anymore.
Like they're like Blightning, kill your Jace, discard 2, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I lose.
I don't know that I have a chance to win this game anymore. Yeah. And so often when it comes to Unlicensed Disintegration, it's like, okay, I'll kill your Planeswalker, kill your creature, right. I'll untap, play a Haymaker, and you're like, I don't
have any answer. Or like you've been trying to race, and now you found out in the middle of it that you've had a flat tire that was coming 2 turns ago. You just didn't know it yet. Yeah,
you didn't know. So where does Unlicensed fit into this format?
I mean, I think like as long as Mardu makes sense, it's going to be a four of. And the other thing is that there are like basically no the heavy control decks have not proven that they've found a formula that's good against Hazoret or even against Grixis Energy at this point. And
Yeah,
I
the
think
decks
that
having
like
access to both Hazoret and vehicles and like some number of
Scrounger
planeswalkers
and
plus Scrounger
yeah.
just kind of feels like a recipe for disaster for the control decks.
Right. So, like, when the control decks are kind of bad, Unlicensed Disintegration is the best card in the format by a substantial margin.
Do you so Settle the Wreckage seems like an answer. Why did Mardu decks do so well? Were there just not Settle the Wreckage decks coming up?
I mean, I think the actual problem is just that if your opponent expects you to have Settle the Wreckage, it's very easy for them to play around it to some degree, and Fumigate just isn't good against vehicles. So they can sort of, like, if you're playing blue-white approach, right? So let's say you're going to try to cast your first approach on turn 7, and they have Heart of Kirin on 2 and Discrounger on 3. Like, heaven forbid they had a Toolcraft Exemplar, right?
Sure.
Like, they never need to commit into the settle in a way that's actually problematic.
Yeah.
That's always been my feeling with Settle the Wreckage, just that vehicles specifically are so good against Settle the Wreckage because you're usually leaving creatures, because creatures have to crew them, right? So you're like always going to have leftover guys when you're playing a deck with 6 vehicles.
Right. That I'm so glad you brought that up. That's exactly what I want to say is, like, even though you're taking care of that vehicle, did you actually get rid of the Scrapheap Country, like the super problematic card?
Right. Often you're just like actually not reducing the total power on the board. You're only removing evasion and like taking away something that gives all their creatures haste.
So when you look at the fact that Unlicensed did so well, not only out of the Mardu decks, by the way, like there were lots of black-red decks that were just like, I don't need Toolcraft at this point. It's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there are other ways you can build it for sure.
Like, does that make you want to play like Blossoming Defense?
Blossoming Defense or Mono Red are both fairly good against Unlicensed Disintegration.
Because the tempo doesn't actually hurt you.
Yeah, against Mono Red, it's just hard to like...
to care enough?
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing like all 1-drops and 2-drops and some on-crop crashers, none of your target... and then Hazarets, like none of your targets are really that juicy, right? Like, it's not that great to unlicense like a Earthshaker Kenra or a Rigging Runner or a... You know what I mean? Like, it like you're almost always trading down on mana. The card is an insane blowout when you like... They play, I don't know, and anything that costs like more than 2 mana, it's very, very good against. But when you're having to kill 1-drops with it, it's pretty bad.
So, yeah, I think that right now you're going to see this out of both Black, Red, and Mardu. And it's a card you need to think about. Like, you haven't had to think about it for a little while. Mardu kind of went on the decline after the beginning of the format, but it's back, and this card is a huge reason why.
Yeah, it's a card you get to play again.
Yeah, it's one of my least favorite cards, so I'm not excited about it. But we'll be giving out a play set of these to one of our patrons. If you want to be entered into this, Patreon of $3 or more per month, you can be entered into this. So next week, when we announce the last card for the month, we will send out all of those cards at once. So with that said, let's move on to our power rankings. So our power rankings, basically, we used the Classic and the MTGO PTQ.
Yeah, so the thought process was that those were solo events, whereas the SCG main event was a team event. So I was a little bit leery of putting a huge amount of stock in just the standard decks from those and treating them as if they were necessarily worth their points.
Sure.
The Moto PTQ was also enormous this week. I think it was like 300 players.
Yeah.
And obviously some really high quality players in those events as well. So I think I trust that result a little bit more than the SCG at this point.
Well, coming in at number 5, we had God Pharaoh's Gift. So whether it's Esper or Blue-White, I think most people are on Esper. The only reason to really play Blue-White is when you want to be at a team event. But most of them are basically gate decks at this point, Michael. What are your thoughts on these. I mean, first of all, can I just ask, was Kite Sail Freelooter regular in these Esper decks before this week? Because I saw.
It was.
Okay, I don't remember that, and I saw a couple with him, and I was like, "That's interesting."
No, it wasn't maybe 100%, but most people were not playing Gate, and if you don't play Gate, then you don't play Esper, and you don't play like 2-drops.
Okay, so in the blue-white, well, obviously you don't play it in the blue-white version.
Right.
My thought on this is just that like, it's obviously very good on the bring back side, right?
Yeah. I think that just like forcing a braid specifically to hit it or have it take a braid is like pretty powerful, and we have like 3 decks that are playing a braids, so I think the Kite Sail makes a lot of sense in this deck this week, especially.
I was expecting like a large number of Ravenous Juba Krablas in this deck, and what ended up happening is they just still play all of the hostage takers and ended up playing Kite Sail and like in the main. I think there was 2. Because I think there was one at the PTQ that also played Kite Sail, right? Yes. Yep.
Double black can just be a little bit hard to support in my admittedly limited experience.
Yeah. So the one in 9th at the SCG Classic and the one that 7-2 the standard PTQ both played Kite Sail Freelooter. And I maybe I just missed the boat on this. I just didn't remember this.
This deck wasn't especially popular. People were kind of off the Esper version, but I think that like just playing things to the board is probably better against mono red. And having ways to like beat an Abrade on your Godpharaoh's Gift is pretty important. I also just think that like with the format looking this aggressive right now, you probably aren't able to spend quite as much time just like casting Search for Azcanta and Chart a Course and cast out style effects. You just need things that play to the board faster.
Yep. If you look at the PTQ version of the deck, it plays 0 searches. And kind of looking at the difference between the 2 lists, I actually like the PTQ version a lot better personally. It sounds like from what you're saying, you kind of feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't. Again, I haven't played these decks enough to totally say for sure, especially not when you get into the nitty gritty of it like that. But I just think that like I really want a deck that just plays creatures every turn of the game. And I think that like this deck is better against Abrade, and I think that although it can be kind of worse against Control, there isn't a lot of reason to expect that Control is very good right now.
Okay. All right, well, let's go on to our next deck. Coming in 4th place, we have Green-Red Monsters. There have been many versions of this deck, whether it's the Scrap Tape Scrounger version that splashes a little bit of black with Heart of Kirin, or just the green-red versions. Michael, this deck is weird. So if you look at the PTQ version of the deck, the Green Red Monsters deck by Volkswagen, he has Regisaur Alpha and the Primal Hunger?
Galta.
Yeah, and then
Galta and Rekindling Phoenix.
Yeah, and 4 Thrashing Barontodon main, so that he can play Commune with dinosaurs.
Yeah, so he gets to play. This deck is kind of cool. He gets to play Commune with dinosaurs as like a pseudo land. Like he gets to play like a secretly high land count, right?
Yeah, because it both grabs. First of all, I don't know if you guys have played with Primal Hunger yet, but I wasn't on the top 20 episode. But wow, a 12/12 is huge.
Yeah, I don't know how good this card ends up being in Constructed, but I found it to be very good in Limited. It's just
I gotta play it in Limited also. It was very good.
It's just very irritating.
I do worry about it a little bit in the standard format because of the rise of unlicensed.
Yeah. No, I mean, like a 12/12 trample just doesn't necessarily win the game in Constructed in the same way it does in Limited. But one of the things I like compared to all the lists from the SCG weren't playing Regisaur Alpha, and if you're going to play multiple Galtas,
right,
I think it's kind of hot.
Yeah, my list. So I posted a list for our Constructed Critics, and I hadn't even thought about So first of all, Thrashing Barontodon is probably just a playable Magic card. I know that you and Mason were a little bit low on the set review show, but like, okay, so maybe you don't want this exact split. Maybe you go like 2 Deathcore Scavengers to this. I don't know what it is, but like if you keep your dinosaur count high enough, dinosaur count high enough, I do think that you can like find a reasonable way to put in commune. Regisaur Alpha is like basically an expensive Bloodbraid Alpha, and then it like really punishes people with Primal Hunger next turn.
Well, and just with like commune into Thrashing Brontodon, right? I mean, the thing with like with Regisaur Alpha is just that it changes the clock up front, but it also changes the clock on the back end. Like
it does it on both sides of the field.
Yeah,
really well.
like it just kind of, it's really hard to figure out like second Regisaur Alpha or so. Like it doesn't have to be Galta specifically, right? Any of your dinosaurs just suddenly like represent a lot of damage that your opponent, that it starts getting really hard to play around, especially when you have commune to increase your chances at hitting. I think Brontodon is interesting. I'm not sure that it's better than Deathguard Scavenger, but my guess is that he thought in the Mardu matchup specifically, having a 3/4 because it blocks because it blocks Toolcraft Exemplar and Scrap Heap Scrounger, and it can kill a Heart of Kirin.
Yep.
So, and it still kills God Pharaoh's Gift. So
yeah, it could be great, right? Like it could actually just end up being.
It's elegant. Like I don't know that it's perfect, but it like you can look at it and see why someone might think this was a good idea.
I think this list looks really solid.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
it's a cool deck. Like for a deck that is like a Scrap Heap Scrounger Heart of Kirin deck, this deck gets weird. It's like it's super spicy.
It's actually not what I thought you were going to say. I'm really proud of you for holding your restraint of green decks.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like a deck with, a bunch of guys that don't really do anything but attack.
To be fair, he wasn't the only one to go the 4 Thrashing Brontodon route. I think the 6th place list from the Constructed Open, from the Team Series, it was Teamer Monsters. Like on the. By the way, notable missing from the list we just talked about was actually Glorybringer, but. Like the 6th place list also played 4 Thrashing Brontodon in its list. So I think that I wasn't on the show, but I don't know that I would have been as high on it as this. And it's a 4 of multiple decks that did well this week. So that's kind of impressive.
Cute. Like, so you can see like Jade Light Ranger is powerful. Like it's a better card just straight up. But if you're playing against a lot of 3x attackers and a lot of Heart of Kirins,
yeah,
I think it's pretty. Like, I don't think we have to go super deep on why you might prefer Thrashing Brontodon.
I think that is correct. Let's go on to the next deck, which is Grixis. These decks look so different.
Yeah, there are a lot. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want here. There are some people playing Torrential Gear Hulks, and some people playing like a true mid-range deck.
That's a good way to go, though. So, like, when I was looking at like building out Grixis Energy mid-range, I was like, is there really a reason to play these like little dorky things other than Glint Sleeve Siphoner? Like, I'd rather just find a way to like play Glimmer of Genius and some counter spells and maybe fit a couple Gear Hulks in there.
Yeah, and I mean, you see some people even like, there's another just blue, black, red, like Rekindling Phoenix Gifted Aetherborn
I saw
Dire Fleet. Like, there's some weird stuff. I think.
Hold on, that's the weirdest deck list out of all. Like.
Yeah, I mean, he ate one, so, like, clearly it was at least fine. I think just, like, the Grixis support cards are very good.
Yeah.
I think, like, Abrade, Fatal Push, like, kind of all this stuff makes a lot of sense in this metagame. So, regardless of exactly what cards you're choosing to play in this shell, this is sort of the teamer replacement, right? Like, you have a worse mono red and Mardu matchup just because you don't have like Bristling Hydras and Long Tusk Cubs ways to slow the board down.
So we obviously didn't. You guys didn't talk. I mean, when the bannings happened, I was too sick to do the show. You guys asked what we should talk about. We said not the bannings. Like, let's make the show positive. But like with the bannings, a lot of people were like, it's going to give a lot of different cards and different sets a lot of time to shine. But like if you look at it, God Pharaoh's Gift is still from Amonkhet. Green Red Monsters is like, I mean, the deck is like a Heart of Kirin Scrap Heap Scratcher deck. I don't know. It just feels like the bannings all it did is that it made Toolcraft Exemplar playable again, and that card's still from Omnicat.
Well, that card's still from Kaladesh.
Or Kaladesh. Sorry, I meant Kaladesh.
Yeah. No, I mean, it just shifted things around, and like it's hard. Obviously, it takes longer than a week for things to shake out. But
it does. My concern is that people, while Merfolk did well at the Team Constructed Open, I don't know, man. Like,
it is not. None of them went 6-3 in the online PTQ.
Yeah.
So my guess would be Merfolk is unplayable.
Yeah,
or that it's pretty different than what people are trying.
Yeah. So number 2 and number 1 are both aggro decks. Number 2 being red, number 1 being Mardu. The reason that I want to talk about these at the same time is because I want to talk about the fact that Hazoret is just the key component of both these decks.
Yep, Hazoret is real good.
Do you think that they knew? Like, do you think that when they printed Hazoret, they were like, this is going to make aggro what it is in this time period?
I mean, my guess is they thought it would be very good. It's always a little bit hard to predict exactly how things shake out, and it's not like there are no answers for it, right? They printed Cast Out in the same set. They printed Hour of Glory. They printed Vraska's Contempt. Like, there are some ways to kill a Hazoret for sure. It's not like they, just... They knew Whirler Virtuoso would be in the standard format. I mean, the biggest difference, like, this week compared to last week, honestly, is just that the Whirler Virtuosos are so much worse.
Oh, so much worse.
Like, they just don't blank Hazoret on its own. Because, like, the thing that was happening with Temur is that, like, Bristling Hydra was so good against On-Crop Crasher, along with Whirler, that it basically forced these decks into playing Rampaging Ferocidon, which still wasn't good enough to actually beat Whirler Virtuoso and Bristling Hydra. So and then Hazoret just like wasn't that good in that matchup.
So if you look at the third place deck for Mono Red from the PTQ, the Fnoop deck, I'm just going to read this deck list really quick because I actually think this deck list is beautiful. It's 1 Chandra, 4 Crasher, 4 Courier, 4 Kenra, 4 Hazoret, 3 Skyship Raider, 2 Rigging Runner, 4 Soul Scar Mage, 2 Braid, 4 Lightning Strike, 4 Shock, 19 Mountain, 2 Scavenger Grounds, 3 Sunscorched Deserts. The sideboard is 2 Braid, 3 Ether Silver Harvester, 2 Pian Nilar, 3 more Chandra on the board, 2 Glorybringer, and 3 Sweltering Suns. This deck is not very different from like a regular Mono Red deck. And
it feels like we're just back to Hour of Devastation, right? It's just like the Hour deck.
It's close to what Peach Garnoth said that they were testing for Worlds with the Rigging Runners. Like, they just were like, okay, well, like, we'll be a little bit, we'll be a little bit faster, and then like, do us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this deck is like obviously. I think this deck is like not as oppressive as before, and I think that like if you're looking at a control deck, you could maybe actually find
a way to beat this deck. Yeah, exactly.
But it's still really good. Like, I mean, it played this deck at Pro Tour Hour of Devastation without Rampaging Ferocidon, and I didn't feel like Rampaging Ferocidon was the card I was missing, right? Like,
sure.
This deck is just pretty good.
Let's go on to the next aggro deck in this, which is Mardu Vehicles. So whether you're playing, I don't know, man. I don't have anything to say about this deck. I honestly hate Mardu Vehicles. Like, I find this deck so boring and so unfun.
I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's one of the hardest decks to play in recent memory. There's also a fair amount of difference in the lists.
Yeah, the sideboards were way different, which is something that I noticed, which will make it more interesting. I felt like the last time I played against Mardu Vehicles, the lists were very unified and very boring. And even if you just look at, I know that we didn't use these results, but if you look at like the Constructed Open, the 4th place list is so different from the 1st place list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comparing Zach Keen's list, which was 8-1 in the PTQ, to the deck that won the PTQ. Zach Keen is playing only 2 Bomat Couriers, he's playing no Hazorets, and he's playing 4 main deck Relentless Raptors.
Yeah, there was a
I mean, it was just
another
like
list
there's
doing that.
it's interesting. It seems like there are some choices there for sure.
Do you like Relentless Raptors over
Veteran motorist?
Yes.
I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong.
I also would think that I would like Veteran Motorists a little bit better.
It's not like, I mean, to be fair, it's not like I've actually played a deck with Relentless Raptor. I mean, the one nice thing about Relentless Raptor is if other people are playing, like maybe he thought Constrictor would be a bigger portion of the metagame, or that more people would play Walking Ballista in their Mardu deck. And I do think that like Relentless Raptor is super cute in a deck with a bunch of vehicles, just because it's like pretty easy to actually negate its downside by...
Oh, you just don't even have a downside.
Well, I mean, he's only playing 4 vehicles, but like you could hypothetically play enough.
A lot of them played 6. Like there was many 2 Ether Sphere Harvester, 400 Kieran. Which, by the way, now that you don't have like 5 drops to play, Ether Sphere Harvester just seems way better than the ramp one. What is that? What is the 3 mana?
Oh, Cultivator
Caravan. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was pretty clearly the case in the last iterations as well. Without Avacyn, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Sure. Well, let's go on to our training rounds because we're still going to talk about these standard rankings. We're just going to break down. So this week, our training rounds, just like every week one, is our week 1 reactions. It's overreaction weekend, and we want to overreact. So, what did you look for this week as far as deck lists go, Michael?
I was curious to see, like, I think, the mono red decks are pretty well set. Like, we basically know what cards are going to play. But I was curious to see what people would do with Mardu, as well as the various Grixis shells. And then I was a little bit curious if any of, like, any sort of tribal style deck would put up any numbers.
Yeah, I was kind of looking in similar spaces. I wanted to see what the tribal decks would do. I want to see what the mono red lists ended up at. And then I was really interested in green red snake and green black snake and green red monsters. Both decks did really well this week. I was impressed. I'm a little bit hesitant on where I'd want to be with a green based deck right now. I was pleasantly surprised with some of the monsters lists.
Yeah, I think they look pretty decent.
Yeah, we talked about that Volkswagen list, the 7-2 list.
Yeah, it was very cute.
Yeah, it was. You used the word elegant. I thought that word described what it was doing really well.
I mean, it was just like, it's nice to look at a list and you like look at the cards and you're like, I don't know if this is good or not, but I appreciate the thought.
Yeah, but it all makes sense.
I enjoy that.
Yep. So what color would you want to play next week if you went aggro? Like what color combination?
I think Mardu, and I think that Mono Red did not perform so well that it's clearly the best deck, and I think that against anything but Mono Red, I would much rather play Mardu.
Yeah, so I have the opposite answer for the reason you just said. I think that people love playing aggro decks early on, and I'm not opposed to that. And I would rather play mono red because I think it's really favored against Mardu, while not giving up too much in the other spots. Maybe I'm wrong, though.
I would imagine like your monsters matchup with mono red is just actually not very good.
Yeah, that could be true.
That's my thought process. Could be wrong, but
no, I think
that like either of those are pretty justifiable.
Yeah, right? I know that a lot of people were really high on mono black. They were talking about it. I had like a 5-0 on Moto, and then the problem that I have with mono black is like I don't know how that deck actually beats. Like if you think that like your Mardu matchup against like a oh my gosh, I'm like blanking on like Walking Ballista is bad. Like your mono black aggro matchup has to be like unwinnable against that card.
Yeah, that's true. So one of the things that I like about Mardu is that it actually has better mana than red white or red black.
Sure.
And I think
it depends on how you want to cast your spells, right? Like red black has good mana. It just has.
It doesn't have good mana for
For
the
what it's trying
cards
to
you
do.
want to play.
Sure. That's fair.
And red-white just has plain atrocious mana. Like,
Yeah,
unplayable.
I agree with that. I would not play red white. I think we're both on that page.
Yeah, so, I mean, you have to play a lot of artifacts to play Spire of Industry, and that's not free. But I think that Mardu's mana is good enough that I don't really see a huge incentive for playing. Like, there's a huge cost to not playing Hazoret if you're going to play actual mono black.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're way more likely to play against a ton of unlicensed disintegrations makes me, and Heart of Kiran's makes me way less excited about Aethersphere Harvester than I had been in the past. So I'm just not that into it.
So the next question we have here is, what deck surprised you the most? And I think this deck is still terrible, so don't think that what I'm about to say means that I'm condoning this deck. But the fact that Merfolk freaking showed up at all in any event is legit crazy to me. And
yeah, when your interactions
list,
are like 4 unsummons and an Essence Scatter,
or just, like, yeah, the ninth place list from the team constructor is 2 unsummoned, 2 Essence Scatter, and that's it. So here's the thing, like, I know that people love playing Merfolk. Like, this deck looks so bad.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, Mason and I did, either last week or the week before, but it's just like you have a bunch of 2-drops that like all kind of buff each other or whatever,
yeah.
But you have like no cards that actually do anything in your 75.
So like, I just don't understand how you win. Like,
you have no removal, and if your opponent draws like double Fatal Push, I think you actually can't.
How do you beat a Glorybringer?
You don't. I mean, like, you can beat a Glorybringer if it's like they play 2-drop, you play 2-drop, they play 3-drop. Like, if you just both take turns playing creatures.
If you curve out?
If you just spend your mana and they never kill any of your stuff, I think you're going to win most of your games.
But that's the problem is like,
yeah.
by the time they're casting a 5-drop, you are on a cards. I don't know.
Well, more like Mardu, Red, and Grixis have already cast like 3 removal spells in an average game at that point, right? Like, your lords are going to die. And then they're going to play something like a Hazoret or Glorybringer or a Heart of Kiran that you're just cold to.
Now, that being said, it's not like the deck didn't put up results. So maybe we have, I don't know, it's tough because it's like a team open, right? So like,
no X3s in the PTQ is pretty damning.
Yeah. What deck surprised you the most this weekend, Michael?
I think that I just thought it was sweet to see people like play Galta. I don't know. I mean, I had that card in draft a couple of times, and it was like really stupid.
Yeah,
so
it
doesn't shock me. Yeah, no, it was just like, why is this a Magic card? I have a 5-mana. They're like, some decent 5-mana 5/5, and you're like 5-mana 12/12 trample, go. And they're like, okay, no arrest, I die.
I had a game where I was like, wait a second, if I crew my Heart of Kiran, it ramps me 4. Like, what just happened?
Oh, I mean, I hadn't even thought about that interaction. Like, the card, though, just, like, in Limited, it mostly felt like a 6-drop. It was just, like, casually a 12/12, and your opponent would just be like, well, I don't have an unconditional removal spell, so I lose the game. That's awkward.
Yeah. I was trying to transfer us from Limited to Constructed, but, like, I did, when I played some Green-Red Monsters.
Oh, it's just a cool card, right?
And it's just like, okay, crew my Heart of Kiran. I now have... like,
there's no way to respond to it, right? You have to respond to the crewing the heart by killing the other creature.
Yeah, which at that point you've already upgraded your power.
Right. Yeah, like it's so awkward. Like, it's obviously terrible against unlicensed disintegration, but man, I really want to play Regisaur Alpha into Galta. Like, that just sounds like a good time.
Like I said, that Volkswagen deck list looks sick. So I'm glad that Galta surprised you. The card and the deck. So the first time that I played Galta in testing, I was like, oh, because I was playing 1 in my like Green-Red Dinosaurs deck that I was testing. I was like, well, this is wrong. Like, I'm playing the wrong number of these, but that could change with unlicensed.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a 12/12 is like, you don't get to play that many 12/12s. Yeah. I mean, but how many times do you get to play a 12/12? I enjoy it while you can.
Yeah. Where do you think the format can head, and what do you think the decks, and what the decks do you think are pretty defined? So I think that there are a few things that we're going to know for their entirety in Standard. One of them I think is Winding Constrictor, Rishkar, whatever. I think it's just a deck at this point, right? Like, it won a Pro Tour, it won an SCG, it took second at a Pro Tour. Like, it's clear to me that even though it didn't show up in the rings this week, like that's a thing that exists, right?
Yeah, some variant of that is at least fine.
Mono red, whether I think that is clearly
at least the really lean version seems mostly solved, right?
Yep.
Like we basically know that you can play a very good lean deck if you want that.
And I am tempted to say Mardu, but I don't want to. I think
there's a little more in building it, I think.
I think so too. I think it has a lot of room to innovate, right? Like if you decide that maybe Hazoret isn't perfect in this deck, you could go to playing 2 Glory Bringers and finding a new way to build the deck and go back to that mid-rangey version from before. I don't know.
I mean, it depends on what you mean, right? It depends on what you mean by a lot of room for innovation. I think that Mardu as an archetype is you're basically going to play about 50 cards guaranteed.
But if you aren't excited about the 12 card difference, I don't know what you get excited about in Magic.
Yeah, right. That's just high level Magic generally.
And then I would say that gift decks are basically figured out. I can't see a way to really break the gift deck wide open.
Not fundamentally, right?
Right. There will be weeks where Jeskai gift is better, but I don't know when those weeks will be. But
sure, and you can add a card or maybe there's some creature that's cute a certain week, but that basically that shell is.
Yeah, and then as far as I know that there were some Sultai mid-range decks that showed up. I don't know that those are defined or even figured out. I know that Teamer decks, people are trying those, things like that. I think that most of the mid-range decks, whether it's Teamer, Sultai, Grixis, I actually think there's a lot of room to innovate on those style decks, but because the meta has to be defined before you can figure that out. And then, Michael, I'm going to say something I never thought I'd say. I'm really surprised that blue-white cycling didn't show up at all. I thought that deck would actually have some feet in this.
So, having played that, the biggest problem is just that it's not quite good enough.
But you don't think that the average decks got worse enough to make it good enough?
No.
Okay, I could believe that. This was just baseless speculation, so I have no idea.
How much have you played it?
I have played 3 matches with the deck, and I was like, okay, I know what this deck does. I don't need to play it anymore because I'm not interested in it. So.
Yeah, I think the problem is basically that there are 0 changeable slots in the deck.
No, I think that is true. I mean,
so it's a deck. It's a combo deck pretending it's a control deck. Right, like you're playing control cards.
Yeah.
And you win looking like a control deck, but you're really a combo deck. The deck is absurdly linear. There are a lot of just a lot of games where your choices just aren't really.
So let's talk about controlling quick because I'm actually interested. So do you think? So if you have the choice, you have blue-black control, you have Esper approach or blue-white approach, one of those 2 decks. Or maybe you try and go back to the olden days and try and do a blue-red Gear Hulk thing or whatever it is you want to do. How would you try and build So first of all, Gear Hulk is an insane Magic card. We know that. Scarab
Search
God,
for Iscana is pretty busted.
Search for Iscana is an insane Magic card. So it's clear that you have the tools, but the problem that I find, and I didn't expect you control to do well this week, right? Because what are you building for? You're building to beat these weird Sultai and Grixis and weird energy mid-range decks that are showing up on Moto.
You need other decks to push out Mono Red and Mardu a little bit before it makes any sense to play any control deck. Those matchups are just not going to be good with any control deck, basically.
Yeah.
Right. You're either playing against decks with a ton of 1-drops and Hazoret, and it's very hard to have hands that beat both, or you're playing against Heart of Kirin, Scrap Heaps. No control deck has ever really had a good Mardu matchup, so I think expecting that there's one out there with... Yeah, that just seems so unlikely.
Yeah. What was the sweetest card or deck to see play this weekend, in your opinion?
Well, I already talked Monsters deck, so next choice there's, I think, probably just be the deck and present actually a lot of choices. I don't know. I think those ones are really interesting. Other than that, it looked mostly like it was kind of what we expected going into the weekend, right?
Yeah, for me,
like you'd have probably bet pretty heavily on the top three being the top three in some order.
I thought that Grixis and Red would do well. I'm a little surprised that Green Black Constrictor didn't make the list. Not because I think the deck is great. I mean, I do love Constrictor, but like, it just seems so easy to build. But I would actually assume that deck has a really hard time with Mardu if you don't build it to beat Mardu.
Yeah, a lot of the lists, some of the like, there are some like Sultai decks that aren't actually playing Constrictor.
Oh, sorry, I mean just straight green black. I actually wouldn't play Sultai.
But I mean, even some of the like, I saw some lists that basically looked. I mean, they basically look like Constrictor, right? They just like aren't.
The Jade Right Ranger, Glint Sieve Siphoner, Merfolk Branchwalker, no Constrictor list. Yeah, I think Dan Jessup took top 3 with a list like that. So here's the thing: is like Michael and I already said that we think that Constrictor is kind of defined in this meta, like it has pedigree. But I think that the sweetest thing that saw play, from what I saw, was honestly like the variance in the mid-range decks. So like whether you're trying to be aggressive with a Constrictor list or a monsters list, or like getting like super mid-rangey with a Grixis list, I find it interesting that all styles of these decks had finishes, and I think that they also have interesting matchups against each other, which I think that Teamer just didn't have bad matchups for the most part, and I think that these decks can play rock paper scissors with each other as the format evolves more so than before. I'm also glad that Approach didn't take over. I didn't think it would, but so many people were saying that it would that I was kind of worried. I was like, oh man, I hope that we don't live in a Search for Azcanta Approach world.
Yeah, I mean, I think Approach the Second Son is just not a very interesting Magic card.
Right, so that's why I'm glad it didn't do it.
It's just like it looks kind of cool and like it's kind of fun when it's not good, but you really don't want to live in the world of Approach mirrors. That just sounds like such a bad time.
Yeah. So Michael,
so basically, my feeling is mid-range decks being good is good because the games are just actually fairly interactive and interesting. Yeah. You really don't want the game where like it's mostly determined by who can resolve Search for Azcanta, who draws more Field of Ruins, and who doesn't either flood or not flood. Like flood or just not draw enough flood. Like that's just not fun.
So we already talked about what we would play if we were playing Aggro next week, but let's just say it. If you were playing next week, what would you play and why? Overall.
I just play Mardu. I think it looks good. I don't know exactly where I'd be list-wise. I think maybe some Walking Ballistas in the main deck.
There is a 100% chance that when I get my store credit from MTGO traders that I build this monsters list. Like this is like the most Spencer deck just ever.
Yeah, the one with Commune.
Yeah, I'm interested.
I mean, you got to start there, right? Like,
yeah, like here's the thing: is like it's so funny. People, there's this thing this theory that I have about deck lists. When you understand like every slot in a deck list and like why it's there and what it's doing, clearly that person figured something out, right? Like clearly you're like, okay, like he didn't just go into this and like he's like, you know what? I don't want to play Glorybringer. I want to play Regis Alpha. That wasn't just like a thing that this person picked. He clearly was like, okay, so my mana situation's kind of rough. I'd like to play some kind of way to fix that. And like my solution to it, if you're one of the constructed critics, is like I played more black sources for my Scrap Heap Scavengers because they felt bad in my first like 2 matches with the deck. But like if you play Commune, you actually don't have to do that.
Right. Yeah, I mean I have no idea if like I can't answer the question of whether or not it's actually better to do that. but I like that someone did it, and it
Yep.
makes sense to me on paper. So
Yep.
I think it's
And-
like a sweet deck to try, certainly.
And I also am glad that I get to play Magma Spray again because, like, that nothing makes me feel better than Magma spraying a Scrap Heap Scavenger, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Sure. I like getting to Death Gorge Scavenge a Scrap Heap Scavenger. That's just
Oh,
fun.
man, I haven't gotten to do that yet. That's going to be sweet.
You
well-
have to do that twice in the same game at the Pro Tour.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good feeling, yeah.
So that's it for this week. We kind of tried to break down week 1 standard the best we can. There's going to be so much to change, guys. Like, there's nothing set in stone. Like we said, like, there's a couple decks that like they don't have too many slots to change, and they'll probably be a part of the meta. But like, I don't know that we have a best deck yet. Well, Mardu did well. Mardu also did well week 2 of the last meta, right? So there's a lot that can happen, and Michael and I are going to sit here and pretend that we know everything because we clearly don't. But if you like what you heard, you can go to patreon.com/ccpg, become a patron of the show, starting at $1 more per month. Anything you see fit is greatly appreciated. I am happy with where we are at on Patreon. We if you look at our total pledged, it's $454 per month. I like to be transparent. I know a lot of people keep that stuff secret. Even if we ever get to the point where we're making the kind of money that those other people are making, like, I'll always keep it available for the public because I believe in that. And yeah, we really appreciate it. Our next goal is technically the card of the week coming back, but we technically have hit it. I'm not really worried about it. The next goal is at $500. At this level, we'll do an exclusive podcast for all patrons. Each Pro Tour talking about testing results, and we will do our best to get guests for this show. Just to try and like do a Pro Tour exclusive episode every Pro Tour. This is taking place of the Skype stuff and things that we were doing for that. So if you want access to that, it's probably going to be at $10 or more per month, just to keep that where it was before with this kind of content. The Patreon-only podcasts, if you are interested in us still doing those, please let us know. We did a poll not too long ago that did not get results, so we haven't done a Patreon-only episode because they weren't listened to. So if you loved them, please speak up, but we found that they weren't working really well. If you want to find us, you can check us out at CCMTG on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook at Constructive Criticism. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at Constructive Criticism. You can join the Constructive Criticism family. If you're a patron of $5 or more per month, you can join the Constructive Critics group. You can find me on Facebook at Spencer Stephen Howland. You can find Michael at Michael Hinderrocker. And you can, join the clan by messaging me at Spencer13Dev on MTGO. We really love interacting with our listeners. It's like a huge part of our day-to-day lives at this point. It was really funny to watch people ask Michael questions about where he was at in Modern last week, because I don't think you knew when they were asking you where you were at. So it was really fun to see you respond.
Yeah, I mean, I will always tell you what I know, even if what I know is that I'm not as knowledgeable as I wish I was.
He's like, I don't know. I just like,
Yeah,
to be
I
honest
posted
with you.
like 3 decks that were different archetypes, and I worked on it since then, so
Yeah.
I'm happier now. But
You can join the Discord. We've gotten a lot of feedback that people want the Discord to be active. I always have the Discord open, so like, I don't know what to do. Like, if there's one thing that we learned from our Reddit experiment, it's that Reddit and Facebook don't work together. So we picked Facebook because we like it better. But like, the Discord is so different from Facebook that like, if you want the Discord,
it's like more cash, right?
yeah,
Like,
if you want the Discord to be active, participate in the Discord. I don't know what else to tell you. You can find the Discord on our page at constructivism.com on the bios page. You can tweet us with hashtag would that be good. Hashtag would that be good is our Twitter outreach program. If you tweet it, we'll read it. We'll read it, Michael. We will read it. Let us be clear about all of the shade thrown at Spencer while Spencer was gone between you and Mason. We will read it.
we will read. Sorry, what was the
Hashtag would that be good. Hashtag would that be good. The first one that we have is from me. It says, "Hey everyone, it'd be a huge help for me if you liked my content. We're already over the viewership and just need the subs." Gives the link to the YouTube channel. Yeah, we hit it like in like a day and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just that like people don't subscribe to anything on YouTube.
They don't. Yeah, it's true.
Why would you?
Yeah. So
right?
it
gets posted on like the Facebook feed or whatever, anyways. So like,
yeah. So just why does it matter? Like, I'm gonna see it on the Twitter feed or whatever. So thank you to everybody who subscribed. If you can continue to subscribe, it would mean a lot to me. At Spencer13H, hashtag would that be good? It is a picture of a pug wearing a pineapple hat. My response was, WTF, this is the most offensive thing I've seen all day. This is still true. This is the most offensive thing I've seen all month.
It's a good hat.
And Mitch McConnell is a person, so like the fact that this is offensive tells a lot. Why would you ruin a perfectly good pug?
I mean, I think the pug. I don't know. The pug looks happy to me.
I mean, it's photoshopped, Michael.
It's a sweet hat.
Chantel says, hashtag to be good. This is in response to her throwing her first draft with green-white dinosaurs.
With the worst archetype. But it looks like her version of it is good.
Yeah, I mean, she got
okay,
a lot
sorry.
Of
the secret is with green-white Tender Shoot Dryad. I've had this deck before. Yeah, Tender Shoot Dryad, I am going to go out on not that much of a limb and say it's actually the best card in the set in Limited. I think it's better than the Black Elder Dragon. Because you can splash it. So you should basically never not play it.
15 minutes until my first PPTQ of the season starts. Here is it to being the last one. I brought up Brew, so here's hoping the medical was correct. Hashtag would it be good. Did we get an update? Meta is somewhere.
I looked at Jared's Twitter feed and I did not see an update. But he did say drawing 7 cards in one game off of Gloomsleeve Siphoner. Hashtag would that be good? Hashtag stupid question.
It would be good.
Exactly. It sounds great. Good.
I love Rain Manny, but I don't see my Pats losing here. Hashtag MTG, hashtag good. So this was last night. I don't remember tweeting this. I was extremely inebriated last night. I don't know why I said this, because I actually could see the Pats losing to this Eagles team.
I don't know. It looks to me like it's written in stone that you can't see it. So,
yeah, I
gotta own it now.
Drunk Spencer clearly couldn't see it, but Sober Spencer definitely sees a world in which the Pats can lose. Forgot to hashtag would that be good this tweet, but there's a question that is great. Friends qualifying is so effing awesome. I can't read that word on air, Mason. Friends winning the PPTQ. Way to crush it, guys. Andrew Elliott said the same thing on the next tweet. Congratulations. It sounds like some Nashville guys won the PTQ at the GP in Indy.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Eagles crushing the Patriots, right? Like, in the Super Bowl. Hashtag would be good. Obviously not. Obviously the Patriots should win.
Yeah, I feel like tweeting that to Spencer is...
Hold on. You guys were so mean to me while I was gone. You guys act like I don't listen and edit the podcast.
Yeah, that's because you can't talk, so...
Yeah, you guys are rude. Especially Mason. Just, guys, come on.
This is the same thing, though. If you're rude to Mason while he can't talk, and he's rude to you while you can't talk, it's a never-ending battle.
Talk. I mean,
it's a never-ending battle. It's like the Mason and Nikachu battle. They can only talk about each other. They can never talk
to each other.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to podcast, guys. I'm really happy I was back. This show and all of my content is such a huge part of my life at this point. It is content is my hobby over Magic at this point, and missing 3 weeks of LTO, 3 weeks of CCMTG was horrible. I'm sure you guys can hear it in my voice that I was so dead. It was horrible. But I'm really excited to be back. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I don't think that Mason said this last week, but I actually messaged him letting him know hey, you've gotten way better at hosting. Good job. I really enjoyed last week's episode, and he did a good job while I was gone. So thank you so much to Mason. I really appreciate it. So, what should we talk about on your show? Hashtag would be good. Okay, so I tweeted at Curtis from the Spike feed, "Hey Curtis, so here's the thing. I don't believe in karma or magic or luck or whatever, but if the Pats win this weekend, I would appreciate a guest spot on Spike feed Super Bowl Sunday for consistency, because I guest hosted last Super Bowl Sunday." And he says, "I love that you're tweeting this before the AFC Championship even happens. What would happen if the Jags lost?" And I replied, I said if the Pats win this weekend. And then he replied to me 5 hours ago saying, "Well." So I said, "What should we talk about on your show?" Winky face, hashtag would it be good. He has responded. So I'm sure that I'll come on the Spike feed. It is my favorite Magic podcast. Anti shout out to you guys. I'm very disappointed in Curtis and Cameron for their talking about Legion Conquistador 2 weeks ago and how it might break standard wide open.
Why?
Because they didn't know it was a reprint.
Oh.
And they were comparing it to Squadron Hawk. I think you guys are better than that. But
I mean, was Squadron
think,
Hawk broken or was Jace broken?
I mean, Squadron Hawk won the next open without Jace in it.
Sure. I mean, I get that it's... I get that Squadron Hawk is a fine Magic card, but I feel like, anytime that you mostly see success, like as Jace's sidekick, you're pretty clearly Robin, not Batman.
I'm actually curious. So, we have Stoneforge, Mystic, Jace, Squadron Hawk. Who's Robin, who's Batman, and who's Alfred?
Squadron Hawk is not worthy of being Alfred.
It's not worthy of being Alfred!
Yeah, it's like if Alfred had a butler... That's Squadron Hawk.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. I will see you guys in 2 weeks on Spike Feed. I'll see you guys next week here. Thank you so much, Michael. I really enjoyed this week. Thank you so much to Mason for recording the video version of this podcast. And thank you to all of our listeners. I missed you guys so much. And hopefully this standard format is going to be awesome. And hopefully the Patriots win the Super Bowl. And my life... So here's the thing. Michael, if the Patriots win and Brady doesn't retire, I think I'll be mad.
Because it just starts feeling excessive. It's like, what are you hoping for?
Yeah, like, what are you looking for at this point? Like,
sometimes people just want to play until they break down. That's like pretty common.
I know, but if he wins the Super Bowl, all right, man, it's time to go.
So you're hoping he wins the Super Bowl, but his hand falls off as he makes the game-winning throw?
So I've been a Patriots fan since Drew Bledsoe. So a couple years before Brady came, right? 3 years before Brady's came, right? And I love Drew, right? But most of my NFL watching, because my parents didn't watch the NFL, other than the couple years I watched Drew, was with Brady. Almost all of it, right? But I don't want to see Brady pull a Peyton Manning. I know Peyton won a Super Bowl in his last year, which is great for him. He got a second Super Bowl, congratulations. But I don't know that any Peyton Manning fan watched that and was like, Peyton's the best. They were like, oh my gosh, go home. Please go home. Please never say hike again. And I just don't want to feel that way with Tom. He's such a huge part of my life. An inspiration to me when we talk about preparation and magic and things like that. He's a huge part of my life, and I don't want to see that diminished. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, my team has Case Keenum at quarterback, so I don't have to think about deep questions like that.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you guys all next week.